On today's show, what exactly is Evan Mobley's Defensive Player of the Year candidacy like? Well, I brought in Justin Rowan from the Chase Down to talk about that and so much more about Evan's rise to an all NBA level player this season. We dive into that on today's edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? My name is Danny Cunningham. You might know me from my time covering the Cleveland Cavaliers, places like my Substack, The Inside Shot, Cleveland Magazine, 92.3 The Fan, and a number of other stops along the way. I want to say thank you to you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. And if you're watching the show on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest content from Locked On Cavs, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Cavs daily newsletter for expert analysis, insider insights, and all of the playoff action delivered to your inbox for free every day. Plus, as a subscriber, you'll be entered to win one of these three amazing prizes: a $2,500 Best Buy gift card to upgrade your sports cave setup, a $300 Game Time gift card. Maybe you're going to be able to, get on out to a game, and a $200 Fanatics gift card. It's easy and free to enter. Simply sign up at lockedondaily.com. That is lockedondaily.com between now and April 30th to be automatically entered to win. Make sure, again, you go sign up for the Locked On Cavs daily newsletter at lockedondaily.com. Justin Rowan of the Chase Down going to join me here in just a second. We have a very fun, interesting, informative conversation about Evan Mobley and his quest to be named the NBA's Defensive Player of the Year. We spent a lot of time talking about exactly what Evan has done defensively, kind of the pros and cons of his cases. We also talk about Draymond Green too, because obviously if you heard Darius Garland's comments the other night about Evan's candidacy, there were some shots taken at Draymond Green in that statement from Darius. So I just think it was worth kind of talking about what has kind of put Draymond up at this point in the season as well. We also did spend some time talking about what Evan has done offensively just to kind of progress to where he is at as a basketball player in a way that has helped the Cavs get to 63 wins. The Cavs do play tonight. They take on the Indiana Pacers. Donovan Mitchell will not play. Darius Garland will not play. Evan Mobley will not play. Max Strus will not play. This is a game the Cavs very clearly do not care about the result. The one seed has been clinched. That's all that matters for them. So we'll see what the rest of the year looks like. But as for tonight's game, that is what you can expect. As for this podcast, you can now expect to hear me talk to Justin Rowan. With the Defensive Player of the Year race ongoing, raging on, I guess, if you want to say, campaigning in full effect, thought it'd be a good time to bring in Justin Rowan. And we're going to talk about Evan Mobley's Defensive Player of the Year chances. Of course, he's no longer listed as the betting favorite as he once was, but he is somebody that I think is more than deserving not only of consideration for this award. Justin, I know you agree there, but I think he's going to get a lot of votes. And I'm just curious, but as we get started here, like when you look at the full picture for Evan, what do you see as the biggest reason as to why he deserves to be considered or deserves to win this award?
Yeah, I guess there's two things that stand out to me. I think the last couple of years, one of the things that's been used to knock Evan Mobley when it comes to all defensive conversation, Defensive Player of the Year when he was in the running against Jaren Jackson Jr., is the presence of Jarrett Allen. Jarrett Allen is an all defensive candidate in his own right? Like he is a fantastic defensive center. And I think there's validity to the fact that he's going to make Evan Mobley's life a little bit easier when he's out there playing center. Now, of course, as people that follow the team regularly, we know they play about half of their minutes together and half of their minutes apart. But this year, there hasn't been a significant drop-off when Evan Mobley's playing without Jarrett Allen. So he is anchoring these lineups where they're playing pretty small when, Jarrett Allen's not out there. When they downshift, you get a lot of three-guard lineups with the Cavs. You are asking a lot of Evan Mobley. You are asking a lot in one of the most switch-heavy defenses of Evan Mobley to guard every single perimeter player as well as every player on the inside. He can test the most 3-point shots on the team and the most 2-point shots on the team. And he's doing that all while taking a big step forward offensively. I don't think that should be lost in this, because I feel like he has improved as a defensive player while also improving as an offensive player. And usually those parallel improvements do not occur in the same year.
Right. And I think that is something that is definitely worth bringing up. I don't know how much the offensive improvement that he has very clearly made. And I think that there's a significant case that he is at worst like a top 15, top 20 player in all of basketball right now because of what he's done on that end. And I think that everyone would agree the jump he's made offensively has been bigger than the jump he's made defensively, just because the floor for him defensively was already so unbelievably high that there just wasn't necessarily a ton of room to grow. But one of the things that I keep kind of getting back to, and I think we've seen this at times, maybe painted as a negative on him, but we've seen, and part of the reason why the Cavs defensive numbers are maybe underachieving for what they should be given their personnel from a full season standpoint, is how much experimenting they've done with different coverages, playing a lot of zone, trying to figure out things so that when the postseason arrives, they can be multi-dimensional, if you will, on that end of the floor, that they can have a lot of different answers, because the playoffs essentially are just one big problem solving equation with a basketball involved. So I think that is part of the reason why their defensive rating isn't necessarily a top 5 group for the season. But we've seen Evan in so many different positions this year. I'm not speaking like 1 through 5, but spots on the floor than what we're used to seeing him in. And I do think that we've seen him switched out onto the perimeter a little bit more frequently than we have. And that, I think, gets painted as a negative, which I view as just incorrect. And does that hurt the Cavs in some areas? Yes. But the way that I view this is, if I were running an offense against the Cavs and I knew how good Evan Mobley was sort of in that roaming role, which is what the thing I think he does the best, I would want to get him out of that role. So does that mean that I'm going to challenge him on the perimeter, even though he's, I think, still good at that thing? Yes, but I would much rather get Evan Mobley in that spot where he's going to win a lot of those battles, but I think he's going to win more of those battles when he's doing the thing he does best. And I look at that as the thing that, okay, maybe there's not a great answer against Evan Mobley, but that might be the best option offensively against him, where you can get him away from the basket and he's going to win, but you're taking him away from what he does best. And I think that's one of the things that should be looked at as more of a positive, if that all makes sense. And I hope it does, because I just talked for 3 minutes about something I feel very strongly about.
No, I think it makes perfect sense, right? Like, when you are worried about his ability as a help defender, the way to do that is to take him out of that situation, to put him in space. And I think he's held up really well in those spots. And I think you're correct in pointing out how much experimenting they've done. And I think it really is a feather in his cap that he's been able to adapt no matter what the scheme is, no matter what Kenny Atkinson is asking the team as a collective to do defensively. Evan Mobley is a constant. He is someone that you can experiment with because of that defensive versatility, the fact that he can defend on the perimeter, the fact he can defend 1 through 5. And I think one of the things that doesn't get talked about enough, like particularly when you're comparing him to Draymond Green, one, significantly better rebounder. Actually ending possessions with defensive rebounds is incredibly important. The other thing that I don't think gets discussed enough when we talk about Evan Mobley is every block he has pretty much is retained by the Cavs. This guy changes, like, not only does he end possessions with his defensive rebounds, every block is functionally a steal when it's Evan Mobley, whether it's him plucking the ball out of the air himself and then starting a fast break. We've seen that countless times this season. Whether it is, hey, I'm going to volley this to a teammate and they're going to start the fast break. This isn't, the Dwight Howard sending it into the 15th row in the crowd and then the team gets the ball back. He is not giving you second chance opportunities off of blocks, because he is such a dynamic leaper and he's in such control of his body that he's going up with control and he's able to gather the ball. So whether it's defensive rebounds or his ball retention when it comes to blocks, I feel like he changes the number of possessions another team gets in a way that some of these other candidates, whether it be Draymond Green, Jaren Jackson Jr., or the perimeter players such as Lou Dort or Dyson Daniels, simply do not impact the game at that level in that way.
This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now, Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now, this is Taxes. Get an expert now on turbotax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at turbotax.com/guarantees. And today's show is also brought to you by Prize Picks. Baseball season in full swing, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you pick more or less on at least 2 player projections. And if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash, whether it's strikeouts, RBI, first inning runs. Prize Picks keeps every game exciting. Maybe you're picking Aaron Judge in those new torpedo bats to hit more than one home run, Shohei Ohtani to have more than one stolen base, and there's so many more options to choose from. It can be that easy. Setting up a lineup is simple. It takes less than 60 seconds, and when you win, your payout is quick, safe, and secure. Always make sure you take advantage of those Taco Tuesday promos. Obviously, that's not today, but next week, make sure you keep an eye out because Prize Picks will offer discounts on select player projections for even more value. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDON NBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Right. And we can dive into some of the other guys because Draymond's a great defender, right? Like he's a Hall of Famer, and that should be mentioned in any of these discussions. I don't think I would even have him second on my ballot, and I don't have a ballot, so this doesn't matter, but I don't think he would be number 2 for me. But I also look at the on-off numbers, and Kenny Atkinson was asked about this. I think it was last week, just kind of what he looks at as one of the arguments for Evan. And I've not updated these numbers in the last week or so, but at this point, this was 5 days ago, I looked at these numbers. The Cavs overall defensive rating was 112.9, which again, I think is a little bit underachieving for their personnel, and that's just worth mentioning. But when Evan's on the floor, 110.8, which is really good. That is a top 5 defense in the NBA. When he's off the floor, 115.8. That's, you can do the math. That's a difference of 5, even if you're in Canada, where I know numbers are a little bit different for you guys up there.
There's
Draymond
always a
Green.
U in there. Just that's the trick.
You guys, the spelling that you guys have, I don't know how you do it. Draymond Green, when he's on the floor, 110.7, so a tenth of a point better for Golden State than what the Cavs are with Evan. But when he's off the floor, it's 113.7. Like there's just not that drop off there. And that doesn't say that he's not a really good defender. But I do think that if there's not that big of a drop off, how much of an impact? Like I do view that as one of the ways where maybe that is how impact can be measured in this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I believe those are the stats from Cleaning the Glass. I recognize them because I'm a fellow sicko. You look at the NBA.com, Evan Mobley's on-court defensive rating is all the way down to 108.6, which if you're looking at the team stats there, that'd be the second best defense in the league. And I think when you look at the Cavs, there's a lot of guys that I think deserve credit for their ability to play team defense. I think Darius, Donovan, Sam Merrill, Max Strus, all these guys have bought in and are playing very good defense as a collective, but they're not people that are regarded as very good defenders, right? Like when you listen to the national conversation, they're never discussed as guys that are driving that. Whereas with Golden State, you got Gary Payton Jr., you got Andrew Wiggins, who's been having a role. And I think that gets reflected in the on-off numbers to some extent. And the funny thing is, you look at where this surge has come from since the All-Star break, where, Draymond Green has gained a lot of momentum. One, and I pointed this out on our podcast in a bit of a sarcastic manner, as I tend to do, but the Warriors have been surging. They've had 19 wins since the All-Star break, or I think 18 or 19, depends on the result tonight. the Cavs have had the exact same number. Even though it's viewed as slumping, they had the same number as wins.
Right.
But if you look at the season-long numbers, and okay, so their defense is a lot better since the All-Star break. What is driving that? You look at their on-court defensive rating this season with Draymond Green and no Jimmy Butler, it's 112.5. When you add Jimmy Butler to that, it's 107.1. That is a dramatic jump as a result of Jimmy Butler being on the court. And while Evan Mobley gets knocked for, Jared Allen helping those defensive numbers, the defense is 0.9 points better. Let me look at these numbers as I pull them up. The drop
Again,
off
math in Canada different than math here in the States.
I'm doing the conversion rate in my head. The defense with Jared Allen off versus on is only 1.1 points worse. That's not a big difference. We're talking about two top 10 level defenses. Whereas with Jimmy Butler, it's a dramatic difference with Jimmy. And since the All-Star break, the Warriors defense is 1.5 points better with Draymond on versus off, but it's 5.4 points better with Jimmy on versus off. So it really feels like Draymond Green is sucking up the credit that Jimmy Butler has, for the change that Jimmy Butler has brought to the Warriors.
Right. And I do think that with Jimmy in Golden State, and this podcast is obviously not about that, but it's worth bringing up here. I think when Jimmy got to Golden State, it wasn't just that he made them better from a basketball standpoint, but I think he injected some life into Draymond, into Steph, into just that team as a whole. And that's certainly something that helps their championship chances. I don't believe they're capable of winning the title this year with or without Jimmy Butler, but they're a team that now I believe can win multiple rounds in the playoffs in the Western Conference. I did not believe that before they made the trade, but that doesn't mean that everything that happened for them before the trade doesn't count. Like, it just doesn't magically go away. And the sample size, when you talk about what Draymond Green has done defensively this year, I don't think that all of a sudden becomes, oh, well, we only need to look at what happened there from the time that Jimmy arrived through the end of the season. That's the only thing that matters when everybody else, and this is not specific to Evan, because I think this matters for Lou Dort. I think this matters for Dyson Daniels, but I think that we kind of look at their seasons as a whole. And with Draymond, it's kind of become, well, Jimmy made his debut on February 8th. What does things look like since then? And they've been awesome since then. It's just that there were 50 games played before that point, and those 50 games need to matter just as much.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the All-Star break as, the halfway point of the season, but really, you're 3/5 of the way through or even more.
It's not
right?
the halfway point. It's not even close.
It really isn't the halfway point. And it would be really unfortunate to see momentum swing in that direction again for Evan Mobley, where it felt like he had the Rookie of the Year locked up. The Cavs were winning at a 48-win pace with Evan Mobley in the lineup in his rookie year. And then he misses 2 weeks. The team struggles to win with Evan Mobley out of the lineup, which you would think would be a feather in his cap. Instead, it's used against him, and he doesn't win Rookie of the Year. Like, to me, it's just the logic does not feel consistent when it comes to this award. And Draymond Green is one of the most special players on the defensive end that I've watched in my time, covering and talking about basketball. Like, he is a truly like generational defensive player. But me seeing part of the argument being, hey, I probably got shortchanged to one or two. I deserve to get basically a catch up one here. That's not how this works. LeBron James has deserved, compensation MVPs. He probably deserves a Defensive Player of the Year while we're at it here. Like that
2013, absolutely.
He absolutely deserves to have one of those in the mix here. Like, what are we doing here? That's not the way this works. So Draymond Green going on, these TV shows and pressuring his future coworkers that know what it's going to be like to work with Draymond Green after he retires if they don't vote for him. That just feels like a cheap shot here.
I will say too, the other thing as far as that goes, as that pertains to Evan, and I'm glad you brought up the Rookie of the Year. That did not go his way. That went to Scotty Barnes a couple of years back. And I was listening to the Hoop Collective with Brian Windhorst, and Evan was on that, essentially campaigning for Defensive Player of the Year with Brian in an episode that came out earlier this week. And Brian brought up that Rookie of the Year race that didn't go Evan's way. And I think that Evan has, throughout his career, maybe, I don't think that he's gotten better and turned into what he has become now because he wasn't the rookie of the year. Like, I don't think that, all of that is the motivation he needed to become great. Like, I don't think that is entirely true. But I think that when you've seen him play against Toronto and Scotty Barnes, like, he comes out in those games with a little bit of a different intensity. When he finished third in Defensive Player of the Year, which I don't think was a bad result for him his second year in the league. Jaren Jackson Jr. of Memphis won the award that year. What have we seen? Every time the Cavs play Memphis, Evan sort of takes it to another level. So that is something that, to me, says, okay, Evan's going to be who Evan is. He's going to be a quiet guy. He's not going to necessarily always go out of his way to campaign for the award. Like, after the game against the Bulls earlier this week, Darius Garland said a lot of things about why Evan should win the award. And then Evan said some things too, but that was like really the most forceful he's been. That's just not who Evan is. But I think because of the way we've seen him approach awards that maybe he feels like he should have won, certainly the Rookie of the Year, he should have. I think the Defensive Player of the Year is probably a different conversation from a few years back. But we've seen him like actually care about that stuff afterwards. And I think that this is something he does actually care about.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's one thing that Evan Mobley sucks at defending, and it's his own candidacy for awards. Like that's really what it comes down to. Like it even when he's on the Hoop Collective or talking post game about why he deserves it, you're not feeling it, right? Like it's not motivating you. I'm not ready to run through a brick wall listening to Evan Mobley, but that's okay, man. He's slim dunk in here. Like this is what he is, who he is, and he lets his game speak for itself. And I think not enough gets made of how much Evan Mobley has transformed this team. Because when he was drafted, it was to a 19-win team that was not good defensively. Since he has been on the Cleveland Cavaliers, they have won at an over 53-win pace with Evan Mobley in the lineup. That includes his rookie year, where, as I said before, they were at an above 47-win pace when Evan Mobley was active in the lineup. And that transformation has primarily come on the defensive end. And that's what's been so exciting. He has transformed this team into a team that you can rely on defensively. When he's on the court, as I said, 108.6 defensive rating. That's the second best in the league. He is absolutely raising the ceiling of this team. And, I think this gets overlooked sometimes when we talk about team building. When you have someone that's as good defensively as Evan Mobley, that it's so versatile on the defensive end, it makes your team building decisions easier. Because you have a unique talent out there that is able to, if you have to change up your defensive schemes to account for someone's strengths on the defensive ends or weaknesses on the defensive end, Evan Mobley can be that guy that's going to fill in the cracks, complete those lineups, and have a viable defense out there. Look at how productive those lineups were, earlier in the year, even on the defensive end with Sam Merrill and George Niang out there with Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley. That is because of how special Evan Mobley is on the defensive end. And again, the collective buy-in, but we're talking about buy-in from guys that are not thought of as traditionally strong defenders. And I think that kind of versatility on the defensive end matters just as much, if not more, than, the individual numbers and metrics that you can throw out there.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think that's probably a good place to leave this defensive conversation, because I do want to get into a little bit of what Evan has done offensively that's been so different and so impressive about his season. But the one last thing I will say about this award is, you mentioned the weakest thing Evan is as a defender is defending his own candidacy. That to me is kind of refreshing. Like, I don't love that Draymond's name has kind of popped into this conversation, because Draymond has not necessarily put it there with his play, not to say he's been bad, but because Draymond has been so loud about it. Like, I think that these conversations, I just like them better when these conversations are folks that are fans or in the media debating who deserves it more amongst a lot of really good candidates, rather than players going out there and trying to puff out their chests and saying, no, I should do this. Like, I should be regarded as this. I should get this award. Like, that is just the thing about this, that I don't love this entire process. And it feels like this award this year is the only one where that is happening. And it's just not my favorite part of this.
I really don't like it. I feel like it has become, almost the norm when it comes to Defensive Player of the Year. And I think a big part of that is we still don't have a way to quantify defense really well. Like
That's fair.
offense can be captured, through advanced statistics and stuff. But the trickiest thing about the catch-all metrics is if you're weighing offense and defense as 50-50, you might have like 80 to 90% confidence in the offensive side of that 50%. Defense has to be about 40 because no matter what, you're never going to fully capture what everyone's responsibilities were on a given play. You just can't capture defense in the same way. And that leaves the room for narratives to take hold, right? Particularly when like you look at, the overall voter base, no disrespect, but they don't have time to be diving into the film. Like when you talk like an announcer for a given team or whatever the case is, they're not breaking down the film to find out, okay, what has Draymond Green done and what are the subtle nuances that separate Evan Mobley from Draymond Green? That's not going to be the case. So it becomes, all right, who has momentum behind them? Who are smart people that I trust saying that they would vote for? Maybe I'll what did it feel like when that player came to town? Those sorts of things. Narratives have such an impact on this award. And I think the recognition of that has led to the campaigning from some of these individual players.
Today's show is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready because they swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass. Every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during the 2024-2025 NBA season, that's this one, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon until midnight. Maybe you stayed up late watching a game. There are a lot of games going on late night these days as the season winds down. There's a lot of games, especially in the West Coast, a lot of games that mean something right now. Just because the Cavs games might not mean anything doesn't mean there aren't games that mean a lot going on elsewhere. Maybe you see 50 points. Maybe you save with Dash Pass. You need something quick and easy for lunch the next day. Dash Pass. You can get your favorite meals with $0 delivery fees and reduced service fees. Plus, now you save even more with this exclusive NBA offer. So what you need to do is sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50, that is NBA50, from noon until midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. Today's show is also brought to you by Epicor. Every team knows the value of hard work, of taking pride in what you build and practicing every detail to get the best results. But no one player, no matter how amazing, can do it all alone. Working together makes getting the win easier. And at Epicor, the All-Stars are the hardworking manufacturers and distributors who create and deliver the things we all need, from aerospace to electrical to medical devices. Epicor ERP solutions are created by industry experts to help make every day easier. Seeing your whole supply chain is easier. Managing logistics is easier. Responding to price changes is easier. From small businesses with big dreams to growing enterprises with global visions, Epicor will equip you with the right tools to move forward, think ahead, and lead the way. Because as the clock ticks down, you need to make the most out of every hardworking minute. Easier doesn't cut corners. Easier finds the lane. Discover your success at easierwithepicor.com. That is easierwithepicor.com. So as we've alluded to throughout this conversation, a big reason why the Cavs at the time of this recording have 63 wins, have already locked up the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. A big reason why all that has happened is because not just what Evan has done defensively, but what he's done offensively and the steps, or I guess leap, that he's taken on that end of the floor. Just in like where have you been most impressed with him on the offensive side of the court this year?
I think how much he was able to tighten up his handle in such a short period of time has really impressed me. I was hoping for an improved handle, but it looks really natural. And you've seen, really excellent footwork and maintaining control of the ball in traffic. Some of the finishes he's done, that one where he went to his left hand against the Bulls, like just knifing around guys and really using his length to his advantage. You need to have your footwork down pat. You need to have a tight handle to do that. And you need to have an incredible amount of core strength in order to execute those types of plays. And, in live action, it just looks like, a lanky player that's finding his way to knife through traffic. But that he makes it look so much more natural than it actually is. And, the 3-point shot, I love the fact that, he's looked like Kyle Korver these last couple games, that it's nice to see him, stretching the floor and knocking down those and making teams pay when they cheat off of him. But I really do feel like the improved handle has been so important because he's always been someone that has really nice touch. And he's always been someone that's had a really, really strong sense for what the right basketball play is. And your ability to maintain control allows that vision that he has to actually result in those playmaking opportunities to create, the chances for other people. And I think that is going to be so important in the playoffs because you just cannot win without a front court initiator. I don't care how good your guards are, even if they were both 6'5". You need to have a front court initiator if your primary, offensive engines are in the backcourt.
Right. And I think one of the other things too, and the passing, I think has always really been good. Maybe it's taken a step or two up this year, and that has been a big part of it. I think that's been really one of the big things that has helped to tie together Donovan and Darius when all four of the core four on the floor at the same time. But for me, it's just he's been, I think, so much more aggressive in this season than he was in any of his first three with the basketball in his hands. It's not just the fact that he's letting it fly from deep more often than he ever has before, which is obviously a really big deal for the Cavs offensively, and it does provide space, and he's starting to be respected a little bit more as an outside shooter. But at the start of the year, it wasn't that. And the start of the year, he was still really, really good, but it was him, as you mentioned, with the tighter handle, using that to get to the rim more and finish through traffic and do all those things you mentioned. But for me, like it comes from aggression. The fact that he has been, I think, so much more comfortable seeking out his own points, like his own scoring in a way that I don't think existed, whether that's because of Kenny Atkinson or Donovan Mitchell helping to empower him there, or just Evan, essentially realizing, hey, I'm awesome at this. I need to do this more. Or maybe it's just some combination of those three of those things. And I think that's probably the most likely thing here. But as I look at it, I don't know that there's one thing that I can just say that quantifies all of that, because I don't think it's necessarily field goal attempts, which per 36 minutes are in a really good spot. But I just think overall, if you watch Evan Mobley play basketball on the offensive end of the floor, you have for his entire career, this year sticks out in that spot particularly.
Yeah, that would be something that I'd be fascinated to hear, is basically his opinion on, what has led to that uptick in aggression. Because is it, hey, I feel more comfortable in my handle, and therefore I feel more comfortable as a self-initiator, right? Like, I've maybe in the past, you felt if I'm putting the ball on the floor, there's a chance it's going to be a turnover. Like, I don't know what move I'm going to go to in this situation. Whereas now he's able to square up a defender and say, you know what? I know exactly what I'm going to do to you. I'm going to put Jaren Jackson Jr. in the blender. Like, I'm going to, look at what he did.
Because he won Defensive Player of the Year a couple of years ago. That's why.
Hey, when the Cavs did what they did to the Golden State Warriors, which, this is a family show, so I'm not going to, use the words that I would usually use to describe those games. Evan Mobley attacking Draymond Green and Evan Mobley being, a focal point was a big, big part of that success. So, whether it is, hey, I feel more, my skill set has got to a point where I can take advantage of this and be aggressive, or if it's, being empowered, being, the teammates in the ear, understanding how important it is for Evan Mobley to take that step forward in order for them to achieve their ultimate goals. I'd be interested to hear, his thoughts on that balance. But I do think you're correct to point that out, where, I think what we've seen this year with the self-initiation and the way that he's attacking has opened more eyes to Evan Mobley, and the path to him being a top 5, top 10 player is so much more clear, because it's like, okay, right there, we know that he's Defensive Player of the Year, caliber, but what he's doing offensively, I think it's like what, 22, 11, and 4 per 36 this season, or something obscene like that. Like
22, 11, and 3.8.
Oh my God, I'm good at this.
You were so close.
I'm just rounding up because I'm the minister of Evan Mobley propaganda right now. But that kind of impact with the Defensive Player of the Year caliber impact on the defensive end, Like very, very few players can impact the game at that level. And there's still room to grow. There is still room for him to continue to get stronger, to get into his adult body, to become a more refined scorer and shooter. And like, it's just so clear now that that bag, for lack of a better phrase, is the key to him becoming the type of offensive player that can allow him to be, an MVP caliber guy. Maybe
Right.
we're talking about that in 3 years. I truly believe now, like I've seen enough. The high watermarks of what he can do offensively are now present. It's just a matter of, can you do it more consistently? Can how much higher can you get your floor, where there isn't a significant drop off from your great games to your average games? I think, to me, that's what separates someone that is on the come up from, that LeBron in Miami. I've mastered the game, I've refined this, and you are just getting, you're getting all 82 games when I'm out there.
Right. And I think that what this year has done for me, with Evan particularly, like, I entered this season thinking, you know what, Evan is probably at some point, it might not be this year, it might not be next year, at some point he's going to make an all NBA team. I don't know if it's going to be first, second, third, whatever, but at some point he's going to be somebody that in a particular season is named a top 15 player in the NBA for that season.
It'll be this year.
It's going to happen this year, but I also think that leaving this season, and listen, Evan's not playing tonight against Indy. Maybe he plays tomorrow against New York. Maybe he plays Sunday against Indy. I don't know. I don't think those things matter. But I leave this regular season thinking at some point Evan Mobley is going to be a first team all NBA player. Like, I just think that is kind of what has changed the most for me as far as he goes. But Justin, very, very much appreciate you taking the time to do this. Make sure everybody checks out your podcast, The Chase Down. Where can you get that?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. I really do appreciate it. Wherever you guys found this podcast, you can find The Chase Down. And Danny, while I'm plugging things, I want to plug the Inside Shot. I want to plug and thank you for all the work that you've done. We're coming to the end of the regular season, and Carter and I, we're chuckleheads, man. We're fans. We're sitting there on our mics. We're not around. We're not on the beat, and we really do rely on the great work that you do all season long to give us insights, to give us things to talk about, to understand the perspective of the players. And you have absolutely crushed it. I just want to say, I really appreciate all the work that you've done, not only having me on, but that's a big part of it here. I'm just sucking up for future appearances. That's what this is all about.
Well, thank you very much. As he mentioned, the Inside Shot, you can find a link to that in the episode description. It is 30% off as you listen to this. If you're looking for coverage before the playoffs, not a bad place to go. But thank you for making this your first listen today and every day. You can find this show anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Make sure you check out The Chase Down as well. And if you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor as we get out of here. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. I'll be back tomorrow talking about the Cavs taking on the Pacers.